Because a lot of times, what we're going through, what we're in the middle of, doesn't line up with what God has promised for our life. Oftentimes, God will speak to us about a future, perhaps, that is not our present. And sometimes, that future doesn't even make sense at all in the moment. If we're honest, we could probably all agree on this or ascribe to this. It's hard to see the good that can come out of the bad, especially when we're in the middle of the bad. I believe God wants us to grow through what we go through. Can y'all say that with me today? We need to grow through what we go through. This is a perspective change. It's a different mindset. It's a totally different way of seeing life. How the heck do we do that? How do we accomplish God-given dreams, a God-given calling, a God-given promise be fulfilled when our human life doesn't add up? Somebody say the math ain't mathing. Together, I want to look at the life of Joseph and see what we can learn together, how we can grow through what we go through. And I'm going to go through these quick, so buckle up. Number one, we learn from Joseph, and this is just really application more than anything else, of how we can grow through what we go through. Don't tell everyone everything. Don't tell everyone everything. And some people that I talk to, like that know my heart, that know me close, are smiling at me because they know this is true. I'm learning this. That I can't talk to. Let me tell y'all, I can't talk to all y'all, okay? Because some of y'all quick to judge me because I'm a pastor and I've got to be perfect. Like, I feel bad yelling at my kids in front of public. Some of y'all can get away with it. I just can't get. Y'all can get away with things I can't get away with. Y'all don't have to put your margarita in a to-go cup. You know what I'm saying? I can't go to Casa Grande. Y'all don't judge me today. I don't need it. I'm joking. Other pastors do that. I don't do that. Listen, I've had to learn, being a part of leading an organization, I've just had to learn. And it doesn't matter if you're leading leadership or not. The truth is this: you can't tell everybody everything. Joseph had to learn this. If Joseph had one flaw in today's story, he overshared. And there may be some pride, because when God tells you something, you kind of feel good about it. You may want to tell people, but sometimes God doesn't want you to share it. He just wants you to know it. And sometimes we share it before we know it. And the problem with that is, Abby, when we share it with somebody and we don't know it, if they don't think it's true and we don't really know it because we shared it before we know it, then when they say it's not true, we believe them. They kill it. Dreams are almost like a seed that need to be protected, almost like a baby that's first born. And whatever God, maybe what God has told you, He just wants you to protect right now. He may not want you to share it. Can I help you today? You don't have to share everything God tells you on Facebook. Most people don't care. And the ones that do care are going to put a water bucket to the flame that you think you have. Maybe build it up first before you share it on social media. Sometimes God only wants you to share it with people that are going to help you protect it. Sometimes He don't want you to share it with anybody at all. Everybody doesn't need to know everything God speaks to you. Number 2, let's keep moving. Because the third one is the one I want to land the plane on. These are just like free things we see in the Scripture. But verses 3 through 11 we see, because Joseph shares, and their reaction is they hate him, they don't speak peacefully to him, they're jealous, the father rebukes them. So not only do we need to not share everything with everybody, church family, can I help you? You need to expect people to be haters. You need to expect it. What's a hater? A hater is somebody that hates on what God has told you to do or hates on your life because their life sucks. Can I tell? Yeah. Can I tell you, most of the people that try to hurt you are hurting you because they are hurting. Damaged people damage people. You've got to know it and expect it, and don't be surprised, and don't let it persuade you. Because sometimes God does want you to share it. Sometimes what God is telling you to do, people have to know it. And if they have to know it, you have to know not everybody is going to be on board. But God told you. And if people are haters, what you need to know today, most of the time, it's not really about you, it's about them. Now, just a caveat, I just got to say this, just because there may be somebody weird in the room, okay? If every person in your life, and if you don't know anybody, it might be you. But if everybody in your life, everybody, is telling you it's a bad idea, okay? And what you think you need to do is something that doesn't line up with the Bible, and you have something that's just out there, but nobody else is really knows about it or agrees with it or has the same kind of feeling, and you go to wise counsel, I'm just saying most of the time, your dream may not be God's dream. I would say if your dream automatically puts you on a stage or a pedestal, you got to be really careful with that dream. Because the more the dream puts you in a position of influence, the more likely it is that God doesn't want you to tell anybody. There's a reason why Jesus healed people and said, don't tell nobody yet. Because he knew what popularity would do. It would have had him killed before he was supposed to be. It'd been great at first. Why don't you want us to tell anybody, Jesus? Because they'll kill me, bro. Don't tell nobody. They'll like me at first. There needs to be a sense of understanding that people may not be ready to hear it. And it may not be you. But also you need to make sure it's a God dream. But what I want you to know today of what Joseph had to understand and had to get through, we don't really get a lot of insight of how, but he obviously did, is that oftentimes, we said that they were jealous. You need to know, envy creates enemies. Envy creates enemies. What may seem like a colorful robe that's beautiful that God gave you causes somebody else to go, why ain't God gave me that? And it really ain't got nothing to you. It's got to do with their own struggle. So what do? They hate. And I'll be honest, you also shouldn't be surprised when it's the people that you're closest to that give you the most problems. Proximity causes people to have a problem with perspective. Sometimes people are just too close to see where you're talking about going. And if you don't believe me, look at the life of Jesus, who wasn't able to do any miracles in his hometown. Why? He said, because a prophet is without honor. That's Jesus. I know you. I knew you when you were a kid. I don't know about this whole Messiah thing. His family called him, he was crazy. None of his siblings believed him. We too will more than likely experience disbelief when those who know us best, by those who know us best, when we share an extravagant call of God on our life. You just got to expect it. Don't share everything with everybody. Don't be surprised when people are haters. Lastly, today, don't let, and I hope you hear this more than anything else today, because if we're going to grow through what we go through, we have to know this. Church, hear me. Don't let your current situation cause you to doubt God's future for you. Say it again for the people in the back. Don't let your current situation cause you to doubt God's future for you. I know what it looks like right now, but that doesn't mean what God told you is going to happen isn't going to happen. That doesn't mean God isn't going to be faithful just because right now it doesn't look like it. Because we read in verse 36, all this happens, and the author of Genesis could have just left it with us wondering. But he wanted us to know the story is not over yet. Can I tell somebody today, your story is not over yet? Listen, it says in verse 36, meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar. They could have just left it. We don't know who that is. But it points out he was an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. Joseph just so happened to be sold to someone that was in leadership and he's going to remain faithful. He's going to have something else bad happen to him. And then he's going to have another setback. But God's going to still give him influence. He's going to have another setback. God's still going to give him influence. And his dream is going to come true. Let me read you the ending of the story of Joseph. If you've never read it before, Genesis chapter 50, we're going to cheat and look at the end of this story. Joseph is in a position of leadership. He is second in command to Pharaoh in Egypt. He's basically in charge of tons of people. Great famine happens because of Joseph being close to God. God gives him what he needs to be able to provide and save thousands and thousands and thousands of people because of this famine. His family included, they end up realizing that, you can read it, I don't want to spoil it, but they're going to end up realizing his brothers are going to come to him, not even recognize him, end up realizing who he is, being scared because they're like, uh-oh, he could totally kill us now. And they're going to freak out. And Joseph's response to them isn't, why did you do this to me? I'm going to get you back. You didn't believe me? Look at me now. Ha ha. Joke's on you. No, what does he say? Verse 20, Joseph's response to his brothers when they ask, what are you going to do to us? He says, as for you, you meant evil against me. There's no doubt about it. Call a spade a spade. But God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. What if your current situation wasn't the whole picture? What may seem like a terrible situation could be the beginning of a beautiful one. God will use what you go through to prepare you to help people. And we all have moments. And you may be in it today. And it's the hardest place to see God's provision is in the bottom of a pit. How are people going to bow to me and I'm going to be in this position of leadership when they're looking down at me, they're above me, and I'm down in a pit? The math isn't mathing. It doesn't make sense. My current situation does not make sense. But my prayer today for you, church family, and what God has been trying to get me and wrestling with my heart to get me to understand, I see things in short term, but thank God he does not. He is a God that is above time and outside of time. He sees the whole picture. You can trust him because he can see things a lot better than you can. He doesn't just see you where you are. He sees what's coming. He already has a plan for the pit. He already has a plan for the divorce. He already has a plan for that argument. He already has a plan for that pain. He already has a plan for that hurt. He's got people in mind. He didn't want that to happen to you. It broke his heart too. He hurts with you. Jesus wept. He cries with you. But can I tell you, God can use your pain. What if we try to grow through what we go through? It is okay to pray, God, take me out of this pit. Some of y'all say, God, take me out of this word that rhymes with it. Lord, it's okay to pray that prayer. God, I don't want to be here. Change my life. Change my situation. This sucks. Can you please just heal me? I'm tired of it. Can you please just change this about my child? Can you please fix this job? It's okay to pray that prayer. But a prayer of faith says, God, what are you teaching me? God, whether you change it or not is outside of my control. I would love for you to, but if you don't, then help me see how you want me to grow in the middle of what I'm going through. Because when we focus on the right now, I know this is hard to swallow for someone here today, but when you focus on the right now of what's in front of you, it's going to be and that's all you ever do in your life. You need to change today. You've got to change how you see things. Because if all you ever do is see what's in front of you, it's going to be very easy for you to forget that God sees it all at once. If you only focus on what you can see in the present and not on what God can do, not on what you can see, on what God can do in the future, you'll never have the faith to see the vision He gave you come to pass. Imagine what it would look like, not just to live in the moment, but instead to live by faith. Not ignoring the difficulties. Call a spade a spade. If you're in a pit, call it a pit. If you feel like you're in prison like Joseph's about to be, call it what it is. Be honest about your situation. But can I tell you, God's truth is more true than any pit you ever found yourself in. Can you imagine how taking the how something's going to happen? God doesn't tell you how things, y'all know if you've been through it, you know. Oftentimes, God's not interested in telling you how something's going to happen. He just told you it's going to happen. You don't know how your children are going to meet Jesus, but God told you they would. You don't know how there's going to be money in your bank account, and God said, I'm going to provide, but He said He would. He didn't say how, but He said He would. God said, I'm going to give you the patience. I'm going to give you the grace. I'm going to give you the heart to parent 3 children. He didn't tell us how. And often I'm like, God, where you at? Low on patience. You're going to have to give it because I ain't got it. He didn't say how, but He said He would do it. Imagine how taking the how out of our hands and puts it into God's. Imagine what would happen. Imagine the freedom from taking people out of our hands, because you can't change them anyways. You can't control them. You can't control anybody. You can't change somebody's heart. Only God can do that. All you can do is love them. Imagine taking the freedom from taking other people out of our hands and putting it into God's. Imagine, just for a second, you're like, I can't do that. Can you just imagine with me the pressure that would leave your body physically, and we'd all see it, if you took the results out of your hands and just put it into God's? Man, you go ahead and come up. Can I tell you today? All that was ever required of Joseph was to go and trust.